Welcome to the podcast, Melissa. I'm really excited to have you today. So I've connected with Melissa through social media. I feel like in like the last 6 to 12 months or so.
Yeah.
So I consider you one of my online friends. And she is a fellow solo mom. And we were actually just talking about this before I clicked record. But I do want to, I know, but I want to, but what you were saying was so beautiful. And so I want to have it on the recording. But I asked Melissa off camera, I said, before we start, how do you like to be referred? Do you like to be referred to as a single mom or a solo mom? And what did you say, Melissa?
Well, I consider myself both. I think that being a single parent is just like a way to say like, hey, I'm a parent and I'm single. I'm not married. I'm not in a relationship, right? Um, but or even being in a relationship, you're still a single mom until you're married, okay? like
Right.
my
Yeah.
I,
True.
I remember when I was with my last ex-boyfriend and I was making content about like being a single mom and someone commented and they were like, "You're not a single mom, you have a boyfriend." And I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, it was so frustrating because I'm just like, who's putting my son to bed? Who's paying for his food? Who's paying for his sports stuff? Until I'm like getting help with that, I'm a single mom. But back to your question about being a solo parent, I think being a solo parent is just a deeper way to understand a situation. For me, I have been my son's only parent for his entire life. And so, again, it's not like who has it harder kind of a thing, but I think it's a deeper way of connecting with people and relating with people who are in the same situation as me because it is a very specific group of people who can kind of only understand what it's like to have raised your kid on your own 100% financially, physically, emotionally, like 100% of the time. And yeah, so I guess I go by both, but you asked like how do you like to be referred? And I guess it doesn't really matter. But I think when I'm trying to connect with a specific group of people, um, it's hard being a single parent. And so I think that's just a general way to say, like, hey, I'm not married and, I don't have help 100% of the time with my kid. And when I'm trying to connect with people on a different level who can only understand, the hardships of being the only parent, then I usually refer to myself as like a solo parent. So hope that
Yeah, that makes
helps.
sense. And there's got to be, there's huge differences there between being a single parent who also has a very active co-parent.
Mhm.
Because you get breaks. I mean, yeah, you're doing it alone. The times that you have your kids, you're doing bedtime, no one's there to tap you out. But in most cases, you do have, financial support, and then you get a
Yeah.
break when they go with the other parent. And so there's definitely differences there. So I appreciate you clarifying on that. So, before we get into today's topic, we're going to be talking about dating as a
Ooh.
single parent or solo parent, specifically in your 30s. I'm assuming you're over 30, right?
Yeah, I'm 31.
Okay, okay, okay. I'm 34. So I was just making an assumption, but lately I've realized that there's a lot of creators out there that are like in their mid to late 20s, and I just assume everyone's my age.
Yeah.
So, okay, but before we get into the topic, I want you to just share a little introduction about yourself, just in case some of the listeners aren't already following you.
Sure. My name is Melissa. My handle is Melissa Ann Marie on Instagram. I'm not very active on TikTok, but um, I am a single solo mom. I've been an only parent to my son since I was 18. I got pregnant in high school, had a pretty crazy, tumultuous relationship with the father of my son. That's like a whole other story. Oh my gosh. And so I basically raised my son on my own. I have moved around. I've lived in Southern California my whole life, moved around a bit. I went to Cal State Long Beach, San Diego State University, where I got my master's in communication studies. I've just always been so fascinated with people and like human behavior and why people act the way they do and the psychology behind it and just like all of that. And I've always loved social media. I started sharing like, I don't know, 7 years ago. And I didn't really start taking it seriously until I would say like until I got laid off during COVID. And then I was like, okay, I should start taking this seriously. And so now I'm doing full-time content creation, and I just like to talk about lifestyle, being a mom. I'm like a huge mental health advocate. And, sometimes I talk about grief and just, yeah, I don't know, being in your 30s. Like life is a wild ride.
Yeah. I didn't know that about you, that you went and got your master's degree all while being a solo parent to
Yeah,
your son. That's incredible.
it was really hard. Thank you. It's one of the
Yeah.
things I'm the most proud of, for sure.
You should be. I mean, I never graduated from college. I was like 1 year away, but I couldn't pinpoint my what I wanted to major in. I just kept changing my major. And so I just got fed up. I'm like, I'll figure it out later. And it's my biggest regret. Like I should have just
Well,
graduated, because now that I have kids and it's like, how do I have all these responsibilities now. So to go back to school, I mean, I could do it, but
girl, you
it's
know,
just so hard.
You know what? I joke about this all the time. Yes, I'm so proud of myself for getting my master's degree. It's like this little thing I can like tick off and say I've done. But to be honest, like I am I using that? No, I'm not. Like I think a lot
Yeah,
of
but
people go to college and they don't even use their degree. And yes, I think I'm not like, if you go to college, that's wonderful. But also I feel like there's such a stigma of people who don't. And it's like there are so many people out there who are crushing it who don't go to school or don't have a
yeah.
degree. So I wouldn't feel bad about it.
Okay. Well, thanks.
Yeah,
Maybe one day or not.
maybe it's
I'm
one
doing
day.
okay. I'm doing all right.
Exactly.
I'm all right. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and get into the topic then. So I want to talk about dating. So you mentioned before, like you've had some long-term relationships.
Mhm.
How long have you most recently been single?
It's been a little over a year recently. I'm not someone who's afraid to be single. Prior to my last relationship, I was single for like 5 years. I love being in a relationship, but I'm also someone who's going to prioritize my peace over, like, I don't need someone. So, yeah, I've had a few on and off relationships, but this last one ended a little bit over a year ago.
Okay. Yeah, I'm the same as you, where I mean, I'm pretty freshly divorced. It's been about a year and a half that I've been separated. So I haven't had any serious relationships since that. I've dated a little bit here and there. But honestly, like I kind of like being single, and I'm the same, where like I'm happy and content, and I have my girls, and if I end up meeting someone, great. If not, it's not going to be the end of the world.
I feel like it's something about being in your 30s where you're just like so confident in your own skin and like you're basically paying for everything on your own and we're already doing it all on our own, that we're just like we don't need a guy, but we want
Yeah.
we want a relationship and we want those things, but they have to like add to our lives because we're cool on our own, you know?
Right.
It's a
Yeah.
cool place to be in. Um, but yeah, I definitely miss like the feeling of being in love.
Yeah. No, I get that. There's definitely pros and cons to both. So, okay. Well, great. So are you currently dating then?
So I kind of took a break from the apps because they were just so frustrating. I
Yeah.
just feel like I feel like I'm so busy and it is so exhausting to have to talk with like 10 different guys at once. I mean, I don't know if this is
Yeah.
everyone's experience, but like that's what is so exhausting to me. And then it's like, wait, who am I talking to? I have to go back to their profile, look at their photo. Okay. And then like I'm so busy that I'm not just sitting there having like quick ping pong texts. It's like, and then I think what happens over time is after like a week of just slow communication, it just burns out on all ends. On, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so
Yeah.
uh, yeah, dating apps are hard. And yeah, there's some crazy profiles out there too.
Oh my gosh. I know. Yeah. I wanted to like screenshot some and like post them, but I'm like, I can't be that person because this is like a real person behind this. But
Yeah.
yeah, I
I
feel the
like
same way
definitely
about
screenshotted some things and sent them to friends and I'm like, is this
yeah, yeah, privately. I know. Yeah, I feel the same way about dating apps. And the same thing happens. Like I'm so busy that, and I think that it's just different when you're in your 30s because or when you're older and you have a house and you have a job and you have, all the things that you're doing, it's really hard to sit there on your phone and just text back and forth all the time. And so I've run into the same thing where it just like eventually it just like fizzles out.
Mhm.
um yeah, it's tough. I guess we'll just jump into like the dating apps. But is there anything else that you don't like about dating apps?
Well, yeah, I mean, I just hate that we just live in a world where it's like you can just hop on and get quick validation, and it's like, oh, who's more attractive, who's more this, and it's like we're just seeing such surface level, images and like quick little things of people, and I feel like that's what's made dating so much harder these days is like, you know, we're all just like, well, can I get the next best, person? And I just feel like we're all so lonely and we're all struggling to find someone. And it's because we're not actually like giving people a shot. And it's hard. I'm guilty of that. So that's something that I'm trying to kind of work through is like, okay, like I need to actually like go physically on more dates because I I think my issue is that I can easily find a lot of things that I'm like, that's not going to work. We're not
Yeah.
compatible because of this or this or this. Where like sometimes if you actually sit down with someone and like talk through it, they're like, oh no, I just put that on there because whatever. But they feel, some other kind of way. And so I feel like it's hard. We're not like giving people enough of a shot to see if it would work. And yeah, that's something that I'm struggling with that I feel like I need to go on more actual dates to like meet people in real life.
Yeah, I've noticed the same thing with myself in the past. Like when I'm not on any dating apps either, I've deleted my apps and my profiles and everything. I'm just like so fed up with it.
You never had your
Um,
Instagram connected to them, did you?
no, 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 no.
Because
I
I
never put like,
yes, because I feel like that's like a big no. I don't know how you
yeah,
feel about that, but I don't want someone coming in. The funny thing is, I would like to check them out, but I don't want them to check me
right.
out. I think it's because because we
Well,
share
you're a
similar.
creator, so I feel like it's a little different than just
Yes,
having an Instagram account, just with like pictures of you, with your family or on vacation, right? Like it's a little, that's
exactly.
at least how I've felt. Yeah, guys would ask that sometimes, like, I'm not really on the apps very much. So like, what's your Instagram? And I'm like, I'm not going to give that to you.
Same, same.
Not yet. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I noticed that like in myself too, like when I'd be swiping or looking at profiles, it's so easy to nitpick every little thing.
Yes.
And it's like if I met this person in real life, like if I just ran into them at the store or if someone set me up on a blind date with this person or whatever, like I probably wouldn't even care about these things, you know?
Yeah, or you would get to know the person first and get like the whole like picture before this one little thing that gives you the ick. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
for example, when I see a guy who posts a lot of just like shirtless photo, like there was
Yeah.
this one guy last night where I was like, okay, I'm gonna open up Hinge, and I like was going through, and there was this one guy. His first photo was just like a selfie with his shirt off, and I'm like,
Mm,
immediately I'm
red
just like,
flag.
yeah, I'm like ick, but then I went through the rest of it and it was like, kind of cute, sweet, like just normal stuff, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm judging this guy off this one thing, but it just kind of gave me the ick, and I ended up not like swiping on him because of it.
Yeah.
Ugh,
Yeah. So guys, no shirtless photos on Hinge. I feel
yeah,
like I see that more on Tinder because I
stay
had
humble.
Tinder, Hinge, Bumble. I even like dabbled in Facebook dating a little bit. And
I've
they're
never
all a
done that.
little,
I've never
yeah.
done, I didn't even know that was a thing until recently.
It made me feel like a little uncomfortable because it will show you who your connections are with your friends on Facebook versus like who this person is. And so you can see who
Oh,
they're friends with that you know.
so it's not just
Um, Yeah, and so I'm like, "Oh, I don't know, like, if I really I don't know." I didn't use it very much, but I do feel like there were more dads, and
yeah,
it did seem a little bit more wholesome than Tinder and even Hinge. Like, I feel like I was getting that a lot where you could just tell that people wanted to hook up,
right.
or, like, once they found out I was a single mom. One thing that really bothers me about apps, is that I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong, but I do feel like men are just swiping. They're just quickly going through like photos. And I don't put any photos of me and my kids. Like, I don't want my kids' photos on these apps.
Mhm.
So it's just photos of me. And then within the description, it does say I'm a mom and then I
Yeah.
have kids. But I don't feel like men are looking at that. They're just looking at the photos and they'll swipe you. And what I typically do is I'll go into people who have liked me. And then if I like them, then it'll create a match, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden we'll be like either chatting or they'll just never message me back. And I'm like, it's got to be because they realized that I'm a mom. I just
Well,
don't, there's no other like explanation for it.
I feel like you're creating that. You don't know. You don't know.
That's what people were saying on Instagram. I think it was yesterday. I posted a clip and they're like, really? It's not, it hasn't been like that. I'm like, but what else could it be?
Well, yeah. I mean, it doesn't necessarily like it's like the correlation versus causation. You don't know for sure, so don't put that in your head because that's just going to make you feel like shit about being a mom and dating. I
Yeah.
personally, it's funny because I had deleted apps and I was like, can I cuss on here?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, fuck
Yeah. You can say whatever you want.
like these apps are just so frustrating. And so I deleted them for a while. And then recently I would say like a couple weeks ago, I re-uploaded them and I'm on Hinge now. And I kind of went through and like revamped my profile and I was like, you know what? I'm like done playing games. I want to be straightforward. I want to be wholesome because that's what I'm looking for. I don't need to have like a cute little like whatever. Like it's just like this is what I am, leave it or take it. I personally have a video of me and my son that I uploaded on there, which I hadn't done in a really long time because I kind of have my own traumas about like and ideas about like how men view me as a mom. And I think a lot of that comes from me, being 18 and pregnant and like dealing with a lot of situations where guys told me ultimately that they just didn't want to date me because I was a mom.
Yeah.
So I think I still carry a lot of that with me. So I was like, screw this. I'm just gonna like revamp my profile, put Adrian on there. Like it's a cute, fun video. We're doing like a little handshake. It's sweet. It's fun. I feel like it shows our relationship. And I was actually sharing about this the other day with my audience about how crazy it was that I found that ended up becoming the number one liked asset. You know how you can upload
Mm-hmm.
photos or videos or
Yeah.
or they can like your caption. There's different things that they could like, right?
Yeah. And it
And
shows up first.
that was the number one thing that everyone liked. And I even had a guy who wrote me who, unfortunately I wasn't interested in him. Like I looked at his profile and I was like, man, I probably wouldn't date you. But what he said was so sweet. He was like, oh my God, wife material. Like he's like, I love the relationship
Oh,
between you and your son. And I thought it was so interesting. It was really healing for me to see that like men appreciated that like nurturing mothering actual mother side of who I am because for so many years I felt like I had to kind of like not hide it, but just I wouldn't be as forthcoming with the information that I was a mom on the actual dating app because I didn't want anyone to judge me for being a mom. I wanted them to get to know who I was and like
yeah.
judge my situation based off that. And then, first date, I would always be honest and open and tell them that I had a child and they could do what they wanted with that. But I thought that was really cool. I wanted to share that because what you said, I think we're finally at an age where I think it is an age thing because I think if I would have shared this on my profile in my 20s, I probably wouldn't have gotten the same responses from men. But I
Yeah.
think now it's like we're kind of at an age where people are looking to build a family and maybe they're divorced and they have their own kids. And so it's kind of
Yeah.
cool to be in like this age now where it's appreciated that I'm a mom and that I'm a good mom. And it's great that
Yeah.
men are being receptive to that. I love it.
You are a really great mom. I
Aw,
see the videos and things that you post about Adrian, and you are just the best mom. And you just seem
thanks
like
so
such a
much.
great role model. And you guys seem like you have the cutest relationship.
You're a good mom.
Um, oh, thanks.
You're a good mom.
Oh, thank you. We're all good moms. Okay, I was gonna ask about so about that. Like, I feel like my experience, and maybe it is just like an age thing. So my girls are younger. So Adrian, is he 12?
He's 12 turning 13 this year. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah. And so he's older also. And so And like, and you're in California, I'm in Utah. I feel like that also kind of plays into it as well. Like, there's a lot of really young families. People get married really young here in Utah. And, but have you found like better success with like matching or men being receptive to you being a single mom that are like older men, like in their 40s? Or do you have, or like, what are your dating preferences?
I feel like I've always had men in their 40s who have been like,
Yeah, even
I,
when you're 20.
I feel like that's just like the female experience. I could be wrong, but yeah, I mean, regardless of being a mom, I think men in their 40s, 30s, 20s have kind of always, I don't know, approached me. But it's not until I would say about now that I would consider dating a guy in his 40s. I think now I probably would date like no higher than like 41, 42. And
Yeah,
that's
like
kind
10
of
years.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's even kind of a lot for me because I'm like, wait, in like 10, 20 years, like, I want to be in the same place. So I guess it just depends on the person. Like, I feel like if he was really like healthy and active, then I would totally date someone in their 40s. And if
Yeah.
full spirit, I think is so important, like playfulness and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But what was your question? I don't know if I answered it.
No, you did. I
Um,
was just wondering, yeah, because I feel like for me, at least on the apps, like I feel like men, at least in my area, like mid 30s, like late 30s, they just don't really seem interested in that. And like being with someone who has two kids and is a single mom. Maybe that is just inside my head, but that's just like the vibes I get. But I do feel like men, like when I've changed my preferences to show men like in their early 40s,
mhm.
seems like they're a lot more receptive to that. And typically because, I'm in Utah, they have older kids that are like teenagers, because a lot of people get married like in their early 20s, right? So they have older kids. But I just thought that was something that was interesting. It's like, and I also have trauma as well. My dad got remarried after my parents divorced to someone that was like 13 years younger than him.
Oh gosh.
And so like I feel like I have my own like trauma where I'm like I can't date someone that's older than my oldest brother who's 10 years older than me. Like that
Right.
seems weird to me, but I know that's just my own
Right.
trauma that I need to unpack.
What do you think about the Kristen Cavallari dating the younger guy who's 24? I'm curious what your thoughts are on that.
I mean, I don't really get like super involved with like pop culture, have like strong opinions about it one way or another. I mean, for me personally, on dating apps, when I have come across men with their profiles and they're under 30, if they're younger than 30, you can just tell they're immature.
Yeah.
There's just like a certain level of immaturity and it's just not for me. So
Mhm.
I've wondered about that with her. Like, what does their relationship look like, because she's so much older and more mature than him,
Yeah.
and then obviously has kids. I don't think he has kids, so they're just on two different playing fields. But I mean, if it works,
Yeah.
then it works.
I listened to the podcast and I kind of felt the same way that you did. And then I listened to it and I was like, okay. She kind of convinced me. I'm like, all right, you do you, girl. But
Yeah, yeah, I mean, to each their own. If it works, it works. But in my experience, it was like men under 30 were just very immature.
well, and we were always told that like women, and yeah, we were told this and we've experienced this in our life as well, that women just like mature so much faster than men. So I
Yeah,
think
they
in
do.
our head we've always just been like, wait, no, we have to go older, older, older. So I think it's just hard to think about going younger. I do believe in like old souls though, and I do believe in like, your environment, like where you grow up, your environment, and that's either family wise or culturally. Like I know for a fact if I moved to the South, there would be a better dating pool of men. I just know
Yeah,
for a fact than there are here on the West Coast. So I don't know. Maybe she said that he's like so mature and just so in tune with her and her kids, and I think it's
really.
beautiful.
I'm gonna have to
Yeah,
listen to that episode.
you should listen. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
you're convincing me. I'm like, maybe I'll change my age preference on Hinge.
Yeah. Go down to like 25.
Yes. I don't know. 20, I don't know. That one scares me a little bit, but
Yeah.
yeah. Like maybe we'll just start with like 27.
Yeah, 27.
Yeah.
You'll have to let me know how it goes.
Oh, I will.
Um yeah, the other thing that like and we kind of already talked about it, but like I feel like the ghosting is obnoxious
Yeah.
on apps.
Yeah.
Like you'll be chatting with someone and like the conversation will be going well. And I know that like conversations can just kind of like fizzle out because life gets busy. But one thing that really bothers me is like I don't know, if it's like if it's because you're dating someone else or you're not interested in me anymore or whatever, like can you just let me know? Like it's not going to hurt my feelings or unmatch me so that like I get it. Don't
Yeah.
just leave me matched in the app and
Yeah.
then just like not and just say nothing, like just
Yeah.
never respond to me again. It's like what's going on? Like I'm into you and then
Yeah.
you don't want to. It does feel like games a little bit too, and that's another thing I just like hate about dating is I'm the same as you. Like I don't like to play games. I just like to be straightforward, like take it or leave it type of thing, but it does feel like there's a little bit of games going on. You don't want to come across as like desperate or
Right.
something, like if you keep messaging someone.
Right. Okay. So I have kind of like maybe a hot take on this. I feel like if you've never met the person in real life and you've been texting and you haven't been texting that much, like your communication's been pretty spotty, I don't really feel like you owe the person anything. I don't think you need to say anything. That's my thought.
Okay. Oh.
Well, because like it's not like the other person. There are no expectations in that relationship, obviously, because you've never even met before. And I feel
Yeah.
like, I mean, think about it. We all have so many different conversations on that app. Like if I had to give hey, I'm sorry, like it's not you, it's me kind of a thing
Yeah, yeah.
to like 10 different guys every time I'm on there, that would be kind of exhausting. But I do think if you meet and you've been on a date or two, I do think that you owe it. I think that you do owe it to that person to let them know and be honest and tell them why. Um, in a kind, loving way.
Yeah, 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 of course.
Yeah,
Always should be nice about it.
yeah, but I don't know if that's a hot take, but I don't think that if you're on the app and you've just been chatting like for a day or two, I don't think that anyone owes it to anyone to say like, "Hey, this isn't working." Because what's not working? You never even met, you never even established a relationship. Like
Yeah.
they're just not interested. Bye.
Well, okay, so let me share. No, I like that. And like maybe I've just been using the apps wrong. Like I was never chatting with like 10 different guys. Like maybe I'd have like three that I'm like matched with and I'm kind of like dabbling in, but it was never so much that I don't know. Maybe I needed to like just be on the apps more. I'm just lazy. I feel like I'm like I
I
don't have
am
the
too.
energy for this.
Okay. It's all-
Yeah, but let me tell you about a situation where I was ghosted and I was like pretty disappointed with it. So I matched with this guy. He's great. He is a single dad. He has two kids. We're just like vibing right off the bat. Like we're getting like there's just you can tell there's just chemistry and he's funny and he's responsible and like it just was going great. We were texting all day for like a week straight. We
Aw.
set up a time to go on a date, and this is embarrassing, but I hurt my back. I like, you know, when sometimes you get out of bed and you like just move weird, like you're
Yeah,
not
yeah,
even
yeah.
doing anything.
Yeah.
So I hurt my back getting out of bed, and we were going to go to a concert. And I was literally like, I could not, there was no way I was like, should I just try to go? But it was so bad. I'm like, it's not going to be a great date. Like, I have to back out. So I told him about it. I was honest. I was like, hey, this happened. He was cool with it. He's like, that's fine. We'll go out like next weekend. We were like talking about our custody schedules. We figured out a time. The date came for that date, and we're still like chatting this whole time. Things are going well. And then like something came up with his son was sick. He couldn't have his babysitter come over and watch him. And I was like, okay, I get it. I'm a parent. Like that happens.
Yeah.
So we rescheduled for another time, and it was actually on his birthday. And
Oh my god,
he
he was gonna spend his
like that,
birthday with you.
yeah. And like he was so quick, so sweet because my birthday was like a couple weeks before his, and he like texted me on my birthday and he was like, happy
Aw,
birthday. And like, I hope you have a great day. And it was just really nice. Like it just seemed like there was something there.
yeah.
And anyway, so it came for his birthday. It was like during the week. We were just gonna go to dinner, nothing like super fancy. He didn't text me that morning. So then I texted him to confirm, and he was like, yeah,
Don't you
let's
hate
meet.
that? Can we just say
Yes. I was like, it was like 11 a.m. and I'm like,
I
is
cannot
he going to
stand that.
text me yet? Like, what's going on?
I don't know what your audience looks like, but if there's any men listening, guys, send the text, send the confirmation text so that we
Yes.
know that we're on for our date. Women eat
Yeah.
that shit up too. We're like, okay, yes, he's excited. Yes, he's a planner. Like, we love that. We
Yes.
need that. Otherwise, we spend the, and also girls take so much longer to get ready for dates. Like, we need enough time, especially as moms, but just women
Yes.
in general, we need to know so we can plan our day around it. So, like, if you're not
Yes.
telling me hours before and confirming, I'm not going on the date with you. That's how I see it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, what's going on? So then
Yeah.
I text him and I was like, hey, are we still on? Because I need to know.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I'm at work. And then, when I'll go home, I'll get dressed and then I'll meet you at this restaurant. I was like, okay, cool. So like right before, I think like I was already ready, I had like this cute outfit, did all my makeup, all this stuff. And he texts me and says, oh, I just got home and my friends are throwing me like a surprise birthday party at my house. And so like I feel so bad. I'm so sorry. Like I can't go. Like I didn't know that this was happening. And I was just like, I don't know, it just like felt weird because how he didn't text me in the morning and then like this excuse and then like with his son, there was like a few things, but I'm just such like an understanding, empathetic person that I'm just like, okay,
Yeah.
like giving him the benefit of the doubt. And I was like, okay, no worries. Like, enjoy your birthday, enjoy your party, whatever. Text
I
me.
think that was the right thing to do because it honestly
Yeah.
could have been the truth. You don't know. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
you made the right
So
call.
then, yeah. So then I was like, okay, just, and he's like, I'm going to call you. Oh, we also had a FaceTime call like a week before where we like were talking face to face, like on FaceTime. So we
Uh-huh.
also had that as well. And it went really well, I thought. And then, so after his birthday party thing, he was like, he just never texted me again or called me or anything. And I'm like, so that one really bothered me because he was really the first guy that I was actually excited about, where I didn't see all these red flags. It seemed like our values were aligned and we
Yeah.
were vibing really well. Like there was chemistry there. And I mean, it was just shocking. I was like, is there someone else you're dating? Which is fine. I just wanted to know. Or is it like, what is it? And so
Yeah.
that one kind
Or
of
did,
bothered me.
or did
But
you
I
ever
never met him in person.
did you ever text him after that, or that was that? You just were like, okay, he's not interested. He's not
I
texting.
never text him back
Okay.
because it just seemed like I was, because I had texted him the morning of like our
Yeah,
date
totally.
and, you know,
I
so
would
it
I would
almost seemed like, I don't know, it just seemed weird.
Yeah, I probably would have done the same thing too. I probably would have just like not text back and been like, okay, well, if he wants to prioritize me and make time, like he'll text me. And then it
Yeah.
he didn't, which I do think
Yeah.
that that's a bummer. I'm sorry that happened. And it does, I
It's
think,
okay. I mean, it's fine
I,
now.
I think, I think unfortunately, like I know that you're newer to the dating scene. You said like a year and a half.
A year and a half. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I just have dealt with so much of that shit that I'm like so callous. I'm like, that's not
That's
that
not
bad.
that big of a deal. I know. And I'm over here just like, I'm deleting all my apps. This is
I
bullshit.
know. Don't let one guy like ruin your own experience or journey to finding happiness. But and I'm not saying what that guy did is okay. I think that the whole ghosting culture is just absolute bullshit. I mean, truthfully, it feels good because I've practiced this and I've gotten really good at it. I actually had to tell someone on Hinge who I never met. I don't feel like I owed him anything. We literally talked for like 2 days and we never even got off the app. But I told him, we had a conversation and then we started talking about like custody and kids. And I found out that he was an every other weekend dad. And that just
Oh, okay.
really bothered me. That really bothered me. And and I asked him, I said, why is that because in my head, I'm like, okay, well, if he's a weekend dad or an every other weekend dad and he wants to prioritize his kids more and he wants more time with them, that's one thing versus him being content with that, which I
Yeah.
just think is a shitty dad move, in my opinion. And so I asked him, I was like, why is that your custody situation? And he was like, well, it just like works best with work. Like I have to get up super early in the morning. And I just was thinking about it and I'm just like, what? Like on what planet is that an excuse for being an every other weekend dad? Like, what? It just made
Yeah.
no sense. And then he's like, and then I can work overtime on weekends. And to me, I just saw it as like, okay, our values are misaligned because you prioritize work and whatever, over being very present in your kids' lives. Where like I would literally do anything. I would get a different job. I would this, I would that to make sure that I could be
Yeah.
present in my kid's life. So I just sent him a DM and I was like, okay, well, I just think our like values are a little misaligned, but I wish you the best. And
Yeah.
I was proud of myself. I'm like, you know what? And then he unmatched me. He didn't say anything. He just unmatched me. Like, I feel like he's angry.
Yeah, I think that's good feedback for him. And that I was going to ask about like what red flags do you look out for? And that one was actually on my list of red flags. Like someone like a dad who doesn't have 50-50 or close to 50-50, and that, or they're not like trying to pursue that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we live in a day and age where 50-50 is more normal. Um,
You know what's wild is, so I was posting about this to my stories, and a lot of people had a lot of different opinions about it, and a lot of people in different states were saying that that's not the norm. And I'm like, it's hard to argue because I don't know. I really don't
yeah.
know. I did look up some laws for some states that people were saying that, and it did not look like they were correct. So
Yeah,
I
they're
mean,
just justifying. Were
yes,
they men?
I know. Well, some of them were.
Some of them.
I did
Yeah.
have some conversations with men, yes, and they, I think in general men are burned because I do think, and I have heard, and again, I don't know for sure, but that like men sort of get the short end of the stick when it comes to like custody arrangements, and they have to
Yeah.
fight harder and spend more money in order to get that like 50-50. I don't know. Everyone's situation is so different, so I'm not saying that's the full truth. I don't know, but a
Yeah.
lot of men were saying that. But anyways, yeah, I agree with you. If you're a father and you're not fighting for 50-50 custody, you're literally just saying it's okay. Like whatever time I would have had with my kids, you can have it. You're
Yeah.
giving away parts of their childhood that you could be spending with them. That's a huge red flag to me.
Yeah. Well, and for me, so my parents divorced when I was 10 and they did the class. This was 25 years ago. And it was more normal back then for dads to have every other weekend. I think it actually, my mom told me, she's like, well, he was supposed to have every Wednesday night and then weekends. But he never took us on Wednesday night. And my dad's a great dad. Like, he worked hard. He was present in our lives. He's not like a deadbeat or anything. That was just more normal.
Yeah.
But once my dad got remarried and he had like the step kids more full time than his own children, it caused a lot of trauma for me because it felt like I was like, okay, there are these new kids in his life that are similar ages to mine, and they get to have dinner with my dad like 90% of the time, and I only get to see him 4 days a month.
Did
And
your
so
dad didn't
I
like?
think you have to think about that too, is like with custody, like,
Yeah.
there's effects on kids, like, and so
Yeah.
if they
It
didn't
does.
know any better back then, but it's different now.
I had one argument. I'll just say this really quick and then we can move on. But I had this one girl. Well, I actually had like three girls who said this, and they were like, I actually admire a father who is a weekend dad because it means that they're forfeiting most of their time so that the kids can have more stability throughout the week at one home and not be
Mm,
constantly going back and forth. And I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know. I
yeah.
don't know how I feel about it because I'm like, well, then that's okay. Well, that's sad for the father and for the kids to have
Yeah.
less time. I don't know. I think in general, divorce and separation is just so shitty when you have kids.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, we'd have to talk to like a child psychologist or something to understand like what's best. But from my understanding, 50-50 is best as long as both parents are, well and stable and, have that like security there. I think that, from my understanding. What other red flags would you say that you have?
Okay. Man, I have some stories. Like, okay, so first of all, there was this one guy. This has happened multiple times where guys will be like, "Hey, like I'll chat with him for like a day or two and we'll get to the point where it's like, okay, let's go on a date, right?" Cuz usually that's how it goes. You match, you talk for a few days, you plan a date, make it happen in person. And I've had this happen a few times, and recently, especially, this one guy was like, "Oh, hey, like, let's make dinner reservations at this place." And I live in a city, and so downtown parking can be kind of crazy. And this has happened twice where a guy would be like, "Why don't you just park at my house and we can walk to this restaurant?" And I'm always so hesitant to do that because I just feel like a guy having your car parked like at their condo or their house, like
Yeah.
they know that they are going to walk you back to their condo, their house. And I remember thinking this and I was like, ooh, this feels like a red flag. And I went out on a date with this guy. I parked, I couldn't find parking. I told him, I said, I actually texted him back and I was like, you know what? I'll look for parking, but if I can't find it, I'll let you know. And he's like, okay, cool. Because I was thinking in my head, like, I'm not just trying to give you some free ticket to be like, do you want to come up? So anyway, and we have dinner. I wasn't really that into the date anyways. He walks me back to, like, I already knew I didn't want to see him again. He walks me back to my car, which is in front of his condo. We walked from the restaurant and he asks me to go up. And I just was
Oh.
like, I fucking knew this was going to happen. Like, of course I was like, no, I gotta go. Like, it was nice to meet you, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So I feel like that, and that's obviously, I think, a city thing, because in any other world, like in Utah, you'd be like, no, I'm not gonna park at your fucking house. I'll
Yeah. Yeah. It
like
wouldn't
I'll meet
matter.
you at the
Yeah.
restaurant. So that's definitely something. And I feel like there was this other guy. This one was years ago. This was like actually a very long time ago, but it left such an impression on me. There was this guy that I had been dating actually for like a little while. It was like I don't know, like 3 weeks to a month. And I feel like in today's dating culture, like that's a lot. So like we were going on a lot of dates. We were like really enjoying each other's company. My dad had passed like the year before, and I wanted to get a tattoo to like memorialize my dad. So I got these coordinates on the back of my arm.
Oh, I love that. That's cute.
Thank you. And it was my very first tattoo. And so I remember being like, oh, I'm going to, the tattoo shop to go get a tattoo. Like, I'm super nervous. And I remember him being really sweet. And he's like, oh, well, do you want me to come? And I'm like, sure. Like, okay,
Yeah.
that'll be a fun, interesting date. And then he's like, yeah. And then we can like go out to dinner afterwards. And I was like, sweet. We go and, you know, have you ever gotten a tattoo before?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
so you know how they put like the saran wrap on it afterwards, and like they
Yeah.
tell you, keep it on for, I don't know, the next few hours or like however many hours, just to make sure that like bacteria doesn't get in it. It's basically an open wound, right?
Yeah.
So we end up getting out of the tattoo shop, and then he looks at me and he was like, okay, so he's like, do you have a sweater to cover up your arm? And keep in mind, it was like midsummer. Like, it gets so effing hot in San Diego. I don't think people realize it'll get to like 100 degrees. It was so hot. And I was like, I'm not wearing a sweater. Like, it's so hot
Yeah.
out. I was like, no, I don't have a sweater. And then he's like, oh, well, do you want to like go to the store to grab one? And I was like, for what? Like, I was so confused.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, for your tattoo, because like, you have the saran wrap or whatever on it. And I was like, it's fine. I just got a tattoo. Like, I don't really care if people see the saran wrap on my arm. And he was like, well, it looks kind of weird. Like, it kind of looks like you were like, I don't know, like he was giving me such like controlling like vibes, and I was just like, what, dude, you were just with me. I just got a tattoo. Why does it
Yeah.
matter? Why does it bother you so much if other people see that I have saran wrap on my arm? Like, that I just got a tattoo. And he was like, well, and he just got really weird. And I remember being like, this is so odd. I was like, I'm not wearing a sweater. So I ended up going out with him, and we get downtown, and he just was being very like controlling and manipulative and rude. And so that was like the first sign where I was like, what? And I remember having to leave that date like halfway. I just took the trolley home by myself because he made me so uncomfortable. I was just like, this is because, he had driven us down there. I had no way back home. So I just took the trolley back. I was like, this is crazy. But it was like that first sign when we first got out of the tattoo shop where he was just like, he cared so much about what other people thought. And he asked
Mm.
me over and over, even though I said no. I was like, I don't want to wear a sweater. It's hot.
Yeah.
So it's just like such a weird thing. And
That is
I don't know.
very
So I just
random.
dipped out. I was like, gotta go.
Yeah. That's so funny. And then did you tell him at the time that you were just like
He ended
not
up, yeah,
interested or
he ended up texting me after that, and I was like, you just like made me, I was like, this was a moment for me. Like I just got a tattoo memorializing my dad, and it was, a really special moment for me. And I've really liked you, but I didn't like how you treated me. I didn't like your behavior. He had ended up inviting friends out when we were supposed to go out on a date too, and I think that was
oh,
part of the reason I left too. I was like, I didn't realize this was like a party thing where you were it just,
yeah.
I
Yeah.
I prefer a guy to be like thoughtful and intentional and make me feel special, and he just did the opposite of all those things, so I just left. I'm not afraid to leave a date mid-date if it's like really bad.
Yeah. You're better than me because I just feel uncomfortable. Like so I'll tell you about a bad date that I had. Definitely like the worst one. But I went out with a guy last year and it was like we were vibing very well. Like there was chemistry and text. We were talking on the phone. Anyway, we end up going on a first date just to get drinks. And it's like a switch happened. Like he
Hmm.
was like almost like a completely different person in real life.
I've experienced
He
that.
constantly, he was just, there's so many red flags. He was talking about, he was only talking about himself, how much
Yep.
money he made and how much he travels for work and he goes to all these cool places. Then he starts talking shit on his ex-wife. He's like getting a divorce from. He's like right in the middle of divorce, and how she's been a stay-at-home mom to their three kids, and how she should get a job now that they're getting divorced. It's just like shit talking her. This is the first time I've met him in real life. It gets better
It
because
blows my mind when people have no social awareness of how that looks.
I know it's like what I'm like. I would divorce you too. Like you're an asshole. Like I'm on her side.
You're like, give me your number. I want to be friends with her.
I know. It was wild. And then like it just is so far beyond me because he's obviously an intelligent person. But then he starts talking about how the hardest part about being divorced is the lack of sex.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
You're like, well,
yeah,
good
and
luck. You're like, good luck getting somebody. I gotta go home.
yeah, and he was checking me out the whole time, looking at my boobs
Wow.
and just being, it was just, but he didn't show any signs of that before we met in person.
Hmm.
And so it was very clear like what his intentions were. But at that point, I was like a couple drinks in and I'm not just going to walk out. I just feel uncomfortable. I don't know what to say. I don't like conflict. So I was like, okay, we're just going to like have this be a really shitty date. So I start talking about politics
Oh
and,
my, see, okay,
and yeah,
I could not do that. I could not do that. That's why I gotta go.
yeah.
Like, I love the trick. I love the trick. You're like, you should start like picking your nose or like doing something.
Yeah, burping, yeah, farting.
You should, you know
Yeah.
what, I would say you should practice telling people that you're not interested. I think it's a good skill to have. And you don't
Yeah.
have to be mean about it. You could just be like, hey, this date just doesn't really feel like what I expected it to feel like, and I think I just want to go home. And I think that's okay. I've said that before,
Mm,
and guys will be like, really? And then I'm like, yeah. And they're like, okay, and
yeah.
then they know.
I'm always like worried that, and I'm sure this would probably never happen, but I'm just worried that they'll be like, well, why? Like, what? They'll want to know. They won't just be like, okay.
Yeah.
So I think that's what scares me the most. And I hate conflict.
Mhm.
But yeah, I should practice that for sure. Cause that's the right thing to do. Like, it's not fair to waste his time and waste my time. And
Yeah, because then you'll go home and they might think that, because this has happened to me before, like before I was really direct with people about how I felt. Like I would get home and then they would be like, oh my gosh, I had so much fun. And so it's like the energy that they spent being excited after the date and then, sending
mm,
me a text. And then that to me personally actually feels worse because then I'm like, oh gosh, like I should have just like let you know kind of a thing. Um, I don't know. But
so you let them know, like if you're not interested in them, like after you go to dinner or whatever, after the
yeah.
date's over, and you're saying your goodbyes, like you would tell them
Well, if I was leaving mid date, then yeah, I would tell
mid
them.
date.
But
Okay.
usually, yeah, I would. because they might not be interested either. So I'll just go home, and if they text me, then I'll say something. But if I'm on the date and I'm very sure that I'm not into it, yeah, I'll just like
Okay.
leave early and say something.
Okay.
I feel like no, I feel
That's
like
good
most
advice.
women aren't like that though. But I think it's good to practice, being direct and assertive and just being honest about your feelings, because those are good tools to have and good skill sets for when you're actually in a relationship, like that stuff matters.
Yeah, I think so too. And yeah, now that you say that, I mean, that makes sense. So, like I said, I've only been on a handful of first dates. Like
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah,
super
you're practicing.
motivated by it. So yeah, I'm learning. So that's helpful. Any last like bad date stories that you want to share or any like red flags or anything?
Well, I don't know. I'm like, should I share this story? There was this one guy that I met.
Yes.
There was this one guy that I met actually on Instagram, and we really hit it off, and I really liked him. He was like a very like self-love, like mental health, like he just was like kind of up the alley of all the things that like I really care about and talk about. And he was super handsome and like really fit, and he was a dad, and he had 2 kids, and he actually started following me, and I was like, oh, he started like responding to some of my stuff, and I'm like, who is this? I normally don't like guys who have followings. He had a little bit of a following, because I just I always wonder, I'm like, what is it for? If it's for their business,
Yeah.
like I get it, but I don't know. I don't know. It always just raises some questions. So, anyways, but we started chatting, and we were talking for almost 6 months, just on and off. It would kind of ebb and flow. And eventually he was like, I'm going to I really liked him. Like I thought he was gonna be like just so great. He was like the perfect mix of like masculine energy that's not toxic. Like it's hard to
Yeah.
explain, you know? And
Yeah. I got you.
so, yeah. So, and we were at this point, we were having like hour-long conversations on the phone all the time. And so, like, I was really starting to like this guy. And he called me, and he lives actually like he lives super far, like on the East Coast. And he had called me one day, and he was like, hey, I'm going to a convention. He owns a business. And he was like, I'm going to a convention in Vegas for my business. And he was like, I feel like I should fly to you. It's an hour flight to San Diego. It cost me nothing. Like, I feel like I should come meet you. And I was like, I feel like you definitely should come meet me. I was so excited. Like, butterflies were just like soaring. Like, I was just like so excited. Just the anticipation was like, it was great. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, I just have a feeling about this guy. And he flies in, and I'm like so nervous, but and this is so embarrassing, but like I even did like a video diary before. I was like, I feel like I'm like meeting someone really special right now. Like I was so
Oh,
excited.
yeah.
And so he flies in, and he gets in my car, and we're both like so nervous, and we're like so excited to see each other. We give each other a big hug, and he's like, I'm in San Diego, and I'm like, I know. And so I have this whole like day planned out. Keep in mind, this is the first time I've ever met him in person. He looks just how he looked on social media, and like, initially it was so great being around him. And I had this whole day planned out. It never fucking rained in San Diego until this one day that he came. It was a
Mm.
massive rainstorm, which was so annoying, because I had this like beach picnic planned out. And I tell him, I'm like, I think it's supposed to rain today. And he's like, it's okay. Like, we can hike in the rain. I'm cool with that. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, okay, maybe that's romantic. Like, we'll do it.
Yeah.
So we hike down this like infamous trail in San Diego. It's like so beautiful. It's at the top of the mountain hike, and you hike down into the ocean, and we're like slipping and sliding, and it's muddy, and it's pouring rain on us. And I have a backpack with like picnic stuff. And we get down to the beach, and I have like this whole thing set up, and I'm just like waiting for him to like kiss me or touch me or like show me any sign of just like affection or like intimacy or closeness or anything like that. And like I was kind of just getting friend vibes. Like I'm like, what is happening here? And he didn't kiss me like anything, but we were still having great conversation and like enjoying our time together. And so, anyways, it was time to like head back up, and it just starts pouring rain again. And to me, I just felt like it was such a romantic moment. I was like waiting. I'm like, kiss me, kiss me. Like I want, I've been chatting with this guy for almost 6 months on and off. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And at this point, I'm like, he's probably just not that into me. And we ended up like taking the wrong route, hiking, whatever. So we had to walk even further back to my car. And on the whole walk, like it's pouring rain. He was walking like right in front of me instead of with me. And I was like,
Hmm.
this is like a weird sign. Like, what is going on? So at this point, I'm kind of chalking it up to like, he's probably not that into me. And I'm starting to feel like agitated, like irritable. I'm like, what the heck? This sucks. So we get back to my house so that we can shower and we were going to go out to eat. And we come back to my house and he's like, oh, you can like, I was like, do you want to shower first? He's like, no, 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 like you could shower. And I'm like, okay, cool. And he's like, I'm just going to go outside. And I get out of the shower and I see him like full blown smoking a joint out on my patio, which, like, look, I am not against weed. I mean, I take gummies, like, I'm not against it. But if you're literally visiting someone out of state and you're like at their house, like, don't you think you should ask? Or
Yeah.
just to me, I was like, why are you smoking right now? Like, this is weird. I didn't say that, but I'm like, oh God, okay, smoking outside. Then after that, he just got like very high. And for the rest of the night, it felt so awkward. We, I was trying to get us to find a restaurant that we were eating at. We couldn't find the restaurant. And he was so stoned that I felt like he couldn't help me. And I was getting so
Oh my
frustrated.
God.
I was frustrated that he wasn't making a move on me. I was feeling so friend zoned. Then he was high and he like wasn't helping me. Like, moral of the story, it was just like such a different, like I talked to this guy for like 6 months on and off, a lot of
Yeah.
like hour-long phone calls. Like he was so great and it was so crazy because it wasn't until we were in person that there was just this like huge disconnect. And when we got back from the restaurant, I remember sitting on my couch and being like, are you into me? Again, I'm a drug person. I was like,
Yeah.
confused at this point. I was like, I wasn't gonna say anything, but like, you've been here all day. Like, we've been talking for 6 months. I feel like you should be like wanting to jump on me. Like, I want to jump on you. Like, what's going on? And he was like, I don't like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I do really like you. And I was like, why haven't you kissed me? And he was like, well, I'm not like every other guy, like who probably just wants to, sleep with you immediately or this or that. I was just like, dude, we've been chatting for 6 months. Like, there's nothing wrong with you, like, grabbing my hand or kissing me. I kind of felt like he was gaslighting me a little bit in that moment. Like, I'm like,
Yeah.
you're making me feel weird about wanting to feel connected with you or whatever. And so
Yeah.
then he kissed me and it felt forced. And I was like, this is just not it. So he slept on my couch. And
Oh
then
man.
morning, I took him to the airport and I just sent him a long text and I was like, I'm so sad and I'm so bummed, but it just like did not feel how I thought it was going to feel. And it really put things into perspective that like you don't know people until you spend time with them in person. You
Yeah.
really don't. I mean, you could be talking to someone for 6 months and have lengthy phone conversations with them and then be like, meet them in person and be like, who the fuck are you? And like realize
Yeah.
you actually do not have the connection that you thought you did.
Yeah.
So I think it was a good
That's a
lesson
crazy
for
story.
me in terms of like making up ideas about people and wanting them to be something so bad that I'm just like, instead of letting it actually play out in person. But I was proud of
Yeah.
myself for telling him the next day. I was like, yeah, I'm just not interested. I feel like we're just not aligned in the way that I
Yeah.
thought we were.
Yeah. Does he still follow you?
Yeah, we do.
He does.
You know what? I actually
You
saw.
guys can be friends. You
No,
can,
definitely. He's a great person. I just wouldn't want to be with him. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
to
yeah.
me, like, if he was being honest, like if he was actually into me and he's super slow with like physical just touch and affection, then that's fine, but we're just not compatible because I'm a very affectionate person. And listen, if it was a first date with someone local and they were like that, fine. But like we've been chatting for 6 months, there should be some
Yeah.
emotional intimacy and closeness where you are ready to do that. And so anyway,
Yeah.
we wouldn't have been compatible anyways, even if he was telling the truth, which I don't know if he was, but
Yeah. He was just too high.
And truthfully, I
He didn't
was
know what was going on. He needed to calm his nerves. That's
like,
why
do
he
you
was.
even remember like how bad it went? Because he got home and he was like texting me like nothing happened, and that's why I sent him a long text because I was just like, "Are you even aware of like how disconnected we were?" I don't know.
Yeah.
It blows my mind when two people are on such different pages that like the other person doesn't even realize that there's no connection happening.
It's just like that self-awareness piece. Like they're not obviously like self-aware or like reading the room and understanding,
Yeah.
what's
So
going
guys,
on.
don't be
Wild.
stoned on your first date with
Don't
someone.
do that.
Don't
Yeah.
do
Don't.
that. And again, I'm not against getting stoned because I do that here and there. But anyways,
Yeah, it just doesn't seem like the time or place to do that.
no, it's not exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're not
Yeah.
gonna catch me stoned on a first date. I would lose my mind.
Yeah. I feel like I would just act weird the whole time. It's just like not the vibes.
Yeah, when I'm like if I take a gummy or I like get stoned, it's because I literally want to talk to no one, and I want to like
Yeah.
rot in
Same.
my
Same. I just want to go to sleep. I want to have a good night's sleep.
right, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this was fun. This was a fun
Likewise,
episode.
it's
Yeah. Thank you so much. I know. It's so nice. It's so fun meeting people like I mean, kind of in person. Like you see people on social media and like consume their content and chat back and forth, but it's a different experience actually talking to someone, having like a long conversation. So
fun.
I'm super grateful that you were able to join. Will you let everyone know where they can find you on social media?
Yeah, my username is Melissa Ann Marie, with two E's at the end. I'm on TikTok, but I feel like I'm pretty bad at posting on there.
Yeah, it's hard. It's just like another thing to do.
It's another thing to do. Yeah, I'm mostly
Yeah.
on Instagram. That's I feel like where I'm spend majority of my time. So yeah, and
Awesome.
yeah, that's it.
Awesome. I'll go ahead and I'll link it in the show notes as well. And thanks again for joining us.
Yes, this was so much fun. Thank you.